You ever see something that just stops you in your tracks? Something so weird it makes you question, well, everything? That's what we're diving into today. It's a story about a lone penguin, all from a viral clip that has totally captivated millions. We're going to break down its journey and try to figure out the incredibly powerful message it has about life, about fear, and about the quiet rebellion of just choosing your own path. And this is the question, right? The one that just hooks you. Why would a penguin, an animal that's all about community and survival, suddenly turn its back on its family, on its home, on the ocean, and just start walking toward a desolate mountain range, towards certain death? Why? Well, the answer, or at least the one people are finding, is way more profound than you might think. Okay, so let's set the scene a little bit. The footage we're talking about, it's actually not new. It's from a documentary that was shot, get this, over 17 years ago down in Antarctica. But for some reason, it just popped back up and went completely viral, sparking this huge conversation all over the world. And it's all because it shows this one penguin doing something that it defies all logic. Let's just trace this bizarre journey. So the penguin literally walks away from its colony. That's its only source of safety, of food, of life. It then walks for 70 kilometers. But not towards the water, where the food is. No, it walks inland, straight towards a barren, icy mountain range, a place with nothing for it but, well, the end. This isn't just a penguin getting lost. This is a deliberate march away from everything that means survival. And that's what makes this whole thing so jarring, you know? In nature, whether you're an animal or a person, your number one job, biologically speaking, is just to stay alive. Everything we do, everything we build, our societies, our families, our careers, at the very bottom of it all, it's just a really complex strategy to keep going. Our brain's main job is to keep us safe. So when you see something actively walk away from safety, it just breaks the most fundamental rule of existence. And here's the kicker. The documentary crew, the ones who were actually there, they made it super clear. They even tried to pick the penguin up and put it back with its group. But it just immediately turned around and started heading for the mountains again. This was not an accident. As they put it, he's not lost. He's choosing to go. A conscious choice. But a choice to do what exactly? And this is where the story shifts from being this biological puzzle to something philosophical. If it's really a choice, what could possibly be waiting in those mountains that's worth more than life itself? The narrator of the viral clip that's been going around, he offers up some really beautiful, poetic ideas. I mean, think about it. For a bird that can't fly, what could be a bigger pull than getting to the highest point just to see what it feels like to touch the sky? Is it possible that a feeling, an abstract idea like freedom, could be so strong it just completely overwrites that basic instinct to survive? Or, and this one really gets me, maybe there's no big reason. Maybe it's going just because it wants to go. The reason is the journey. And this is where the whole thing turns into a mirror. The narrator uses this penguin's incredible journey to reflect on our own lives, and he forces us to ask some pretty uncomfortable questions. And it all starts with this really raw confession he makes. Wow. I mean, that's just so vulnerable and honest, isn't it? The narrator straight up admits that, unlike the penguin, he feels trapped. Trapped by all the things we think are supposed to be our lives, our responsibilities, our ambitions, our relationships, even our own ideas of who we're supposed to be. He's looking at this penguin's freedom, and he doesn't feel pity. He feels envy. And the contrast he draws is just so sharp. The penguin puts its actual life on the line to follow this inner calling. But for most of us, what's at stake? Usually just our comfort, maybe a little bit of our pride, and yet we're paralyzed by fear. We're constantly making these little compromises with ourselves, telling ourselves it's the smart or sensible thing to do. And isn't that just the truth? We're always waiting. I'll follow my passion when I have more money. I'll travel when the kids are older. I'll finally be myself when I retire. We come up with endless excuses to just stay put. But the penguin, it doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It doesn't wait for permission. It just starts walking. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's really easy to be cynical here, right? To say, come on, the penguin wasn't brave, it was probably just sick or confused. Or, as the narrator says, maybe it was just being foolish. Is this entire story just someone projecting a whole lot of meaning onto what was really just a random, meaningless act? The narrator actually tackles this head on. He totally gets that some people, the clever ones, he calls them, will look at this and just think, that's a dumb animal walking to its death, and there's a dumb guy getting all emotional about it. But he argues that if you think that, you are missing the entire point. And this is the brilliant idea he introduces: meaningful foolishness. It's this concept that choosing to live a life that's chasing something deeply personally meaningful, even if it looks like absolute madness to everybody else, is so much better than a life of meaningless cleverness. You know, where you do everything right, you check all the boxes, but you don't feel a thing. And with this line, he just reclaims the word fool and turns it into this badge of honor. He's not just analyzing the penguin anymore. He's basically declaring his loyalty to its philosophy. He's saying, yeah, I choose to be the fool who finds meaning, who gets inspired. And then he extends that invitation to all of us, to embrace our own foolish paths if that's where our real happiness is. So, as we start to wrap this up, the message really crystallizes into this powerful call to action. It's all about looking at our own lives, recognizing the little compromises we make every day, and really understanding the true cost of always playing it safe. This is a pretty stark warning, but it's an important one. All those little deals we make with ourselves, the dreams we shelve, the truths about ourselves we ignore, they don't just vanish. The idea here is that they pile up, one by one, and in our final moments, they'll all come crashing down on us in the form of regret, and maybe, just maybe, it's only then that we'd finally get why that penguin just had to walk toward its mountain.
The penguin's journey was a solo mission. And let's be real, choosing an authentic path for yourself often is. It might mean disappointing some people. It might mean walking away from what's comfortable and what's familiar. But the powerful conclusion of this story is that being lonely is a pretty small price to pay for the integrity of being true to who you really are. If that's what it takes, then being alone is the right choice.
So, for the penguin, the mountains were a real place, a destination of ice and rock. But for us, the mountain is a metaphor, isn't it? It's that thing we secretly yearn for, that path we're terrified to take, that version of ourselves we keep putting off until someday. And so, the story of this strange, foolish, and unbelievably brave penguin leaves us all with one simple, but maybe life-altering question. What is your mountain? And when are you going to start walking?